Do you mistakenly label your team's disagreement about an upcoming change as resistance? Would you be surprised if I told you their disagreement is an early indicator of change readiness? It is. Stay tuned. In this video, I want to share with you why disagreement to your proposed change is important, how your fear of disagreement with your change can prevent those higher levels of readiness that are needed for sustainability, and how you as a leader can work with that disagreement and enable healthy and sustainable change. Hello. Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Dawn Marie Turner, President of Turner Change Management and creator of the Readiness Mindset. Recently, I was exploring with a group of leaders. They were enrolled in our Certificate of Change Management program, and we were talking about the importance of engaging people early in the conversations about the need for the change and the intended outcome. And I asked what their experience was with those conversations. Had they been engaging their team in the conversation, and were they involved in the conversation? And I was surprised when most of them shared that they were not having the conversations, nor were they participating in those early conversations. I was curious about why, so I asked. The overwhelming response from the leaders was fear. They were afraid that if they engaged their team, their employees too early in those conversations about the proposed change, that they would disagree, that they would challenge the decision and then not get on board. Because many also believed that the disagreement with the proposed change was resistance and that the change had been mandated or it wasn't an option for them. Their approach was to plow ahead with the implementation and then manage the resistance. But disagreement is not resistance to change. And what the responses of those participants in that course highlighted was their lack of understanding of why we disagree with a change and the value of that disagreement in building readiness and reducing the risk of failure. Disagreement, or a lack of enthusiasm for a change initiative, is a normal human response to change. It's also a necessary step in building the level of readiness and the commitment that you're going to need to sustain those activities and behaviors. So let's talk a little bit about why we disagree. And I know as a leader, it's not easy when you announce a change that you believe is needed. You can see the benefits, or you know will solve a critical problem to navigate the skepticism, the disagreement, maybe some discontent, and even some potential backlash. And if you're working with a resistant mindset, it's easy to label all of that reaction as resistance, and then try to push forward and manage that resistance. The problem with that approach is that it often leads to a cascade of activity that ultimately creates the resistance that you will then need to manage and makes change harder for everyone. Therefore, it's helpful to understand why that initial agreement occurs and what you can do about it. So as human beings, we're hardwired for consistency and predictability. I've talked about that many times before. These are basic survival mechanisms for all of us. And anything that disrupts our normal pattern can create the potential for a threat or stress response. Couple that need for consistency with our built-in negativity bias, another survival mechanism, which causes us to pay more attention and look first for what's wrong, a potential threat. And you can see that the disagreement, the challenges, and that backlash isn't resistance. It's a part of that normal human response to change. It's why I advocate so strongly that leaders start with the law of change. The The law of change is simply that we as human beings will not let go and move towards something new or different unless we have internalized that need and accepted that the current state can't meet our needs, or without the change, we won't be able to meet a future need. To do that, we must explore, question, test out that need for change and get a clear sense of what the intended outcome is. So asking questions, challenging the need, the outcome, getting clarity on the outcome are all early indicators of readiness. They begin to signal a willingness to explore and awareness that the current state might not be working. Disagreement also holds real value for you to enable healthy and sustainable change. Enabling those early conversations and demonstrating a willingness to explore your team's concerns, their disagreement, look at a different perspective will help you. It can help you discover potential blind spots or hidden risks and challenges that may prevent the adoption of those new activities. For example, one client identified just in the nick of time that what appeared to be this really simple physical move of one small team to another building would critically impact a larger customer-facing team. As a result, they were able to reallocate time and resources to work with both teams and redesign the process before physically moving that smaller team. Another value that disagreement gives you is that as you explore people's disagreement, you raise the potential to increase the ownership and create the commitment of the people that will do the heavy lifting. Learning to work with that disagreement also helps you avoid implementing a change that may make the situation worse instead of better. A few years ago, we in our organization needed to change our invoicing system. After some research to explore the options, I was convinced I had the solution. When I took the change to my team, my accounting person disagreed. And as I explored her concerns, I realized while the proposed solution would solve a problem for me, it would create many more for her and our organization. In the end, we decided not to move forward with my solution and together came up with a different way to address the problem that overall ended up to be a better fit for our entire organization. So how do you use disagreement to reduce conflict and enable change? Initiating change in your organization can be challenging. It's uncomfortable for everyone. So enabling and allowing people to explore their discomfort, express concerns, and yes, even that disagreement can help you build a change-ready organization. Let's talk about 3 things that can help. First, become aware and observe your discomfort when someone disagrees or expresses concerns about the change you are proposing. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Can you label that emotion? Why am I feeling that way? Do I feel my authority has been challenged? Am I feeling challenged? And then ask yourself, what can they see that I can't? And what don't they see that I can see? That will help you open up the space for that conversation. Another action that will help you to work with and use that disagreement to enable change is to shift your perspective about what it is and what it is not. When your employees in your team disagree about the idea or about a proposed change, that's not a rejection of your authority, your decision-making, or you as a person. It's often an indicator of their discomfort. So the willingness to explore it and share ideas allows you to collectively raise the comfort level and move forward to solve the problem and create a solution that allows you to use change for growth and performance. Third, set a tone for constructive disagreement and check your ego at the door. It's easy when you've been working on a solution to a problem or a new opportunity for weeks, months or even years to convince yourself it's the right or even perhaps the only solution. It's then that your ego can move into the driver's seat because you're both intellectually and emotionally attached to that solution. And when that happens, when your ego moves into the driver's seat, and if you're working with a resistant mindset, that is the belief that people resist change, then it's easy to hear that disagreement as resistance and perceive it as a roadblock. And that's a mistake because it can blind you to the risks, and you could be implementing a change that makes things worse instead of better. I've seen that over and over again. And a study done by Harvard Business School found that 1/3 of changes that organizations make, the organization is worse instead of better after the change has been made. Navigating and working with that disagreement isn't easy. As you introduce change, allow and explore that disagreement as a normal part of the change process. You can build higher levels of readiness. You can prevent resistance, and you can reduce the risk of implementing a change that makes your organization worse instead of better. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.